Hey, how are you guys? A little bit. No, I'm actually okay. I'm a minute late. I'm a minute late. Hope everything's cool with you. How's that moving going? It's not bad. It's not bad. I'm setting up. I got to get movers and stuff, but I just gave away 6 chairs and a computer screen and a whole bunch of other stuff. So unloading the stuff. I hope everybody is well. What was our viewer count? We got about 80 people on. It's not bad. So, hey there, Daniela. Hey there. Oh yeah, Stef's dope music is on. Thank you. Yeah. Well, every show has to have a theme song, so I figured it should just be my own. All right. Stefan, hope you are well. Looking forward to learning about C++ since I don't know a lot about it. Well, I'm not going to be teaching about C++. I'm going to be answering a question that was put to me, and then we're going to jump into it. So let me just jump into the subject of the day, and then we'll do the Q&A as usual. All right, so I think everybody can see this. This is a question that was sent to me. I'm not sure when. One of the things I'm doing for my move is I'm clearing out my inbox. So let me just jump into this right now. So there we go. Hi, Stef. I'm a 40-year-old engineer. I currently head the DevOps unit in a small company. I'm knowledgeable in Python and Node.js, and I also have hands-on experience with AWS and Azure. These are cloud services. So I always wanted to learn C++. I'm thinking of picking that up. My questions to you are, number one, is C++ still viable, or would you suggest I pick up Golang? Between C++ and Golang, I would definitely go with C++. I still see Golang as a niche language, so I'm looking at market share and its use cases rather than the technical merits of either language. I don't know much about Golang, so I couldn't go into that anyway. So yeah, I would say in terms of the language itself, I think C++ is viable today, and it will be viable for the foreseeable future. I don't see how that is going to go anyway anytime soon. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that aspect of it. Let's go down. So he's is 40 too old to stay in the technical field? So he's talking about learning C++ for the first time. No, you're hardly too old to get into the technical field. And I say that because I have a couple of friends of mine who are in their mid-50s who are still in the technical field. They're still highly regarded. They work for people. And yeah, there's nothing. Their careers are still going strong in their mid-50s. And I don't think they're going to retire soon. They kind of like what they're doing. So I can see them going into their early 60s by their choice. On the other hand, I have good friends of mine who were in the software game for I don't know, 20, 25 years, and they just retired around, I think they're 50 now. And they've retired very, very well. They're worth multi-millions, just working for people, large companies, but saving and investing over the years. And they are multi-millionaires at not quite 50 yet, I think 49 or so. And and they didn't live like church mice. They didn't live, they lived smart. They didn't spend all their money. They didn't buy expensive cars and stuff while they were saving for retirement, but they traveled around the world. They got $1 million home, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, you can, I'm going off on a tangent here, but just in case you wonder, you can become a multimillionaire just working for people as a developer. Because if you're making, 3-4 times the average salary, your savings start to add up very quickly. Anyway, so there you go. So would learning C++ at 40 be a big stretch? No, it takes 3 years to become an expert at anything, but this guy already has a good background in code. And even if he was starting from scratch, so let's say you're starting from scratch, you get off the ground within 3 to 6 months, junior position, and then you start building up your skill set from there. Within 3 years, 4 years, give or take, you find yourself in a pretty solid position as a developer. So you're 43 or 44 as a developer. You're making much more than you would in so many other professions. So you keep coding until, for another 10, 15 years, making a lot more money. I don't think that it's a wrong route whatsoever. So Harlan Lovestone says, what about starting a coding career at 50? Why not? Again, coders generally make 2 to 3 times more than the average salary, at least in North America. There's a broad stroke here, but they make a lot more. That's why a lot of people want to be coders. So why would you limit yourself, right? Now at 50, of course, you're probably not going to go work for a startup, but you could find yourself, especially if you have a background in some other areas, working for a large organization, that's for sure. You remember, a big part about being a developer is not just writing code. There's a lot of other skills that go into it, including soft skills, including domain knowledge, if you have it. That all helps and all contributes. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Unlike professional athletics, being a developer does not necessarily mean you have to be youthful. Now, there are certain types of development, like I said, working for a startup, for example, it's probably not going to be your thing at 40 and 50. But I think it's extremely viable, right? So why would you, even if you had another 5-6 years of solid coding, why would you turn down making 2 to 3 times the average salary because you only have 5-6 years left because you start at 55 or something, or maybe 60? I know people who are still coding in their 60s because they like what they do, All right, let's see what we got here. So I covered that in 7 minutes. Not bad. Stef, I like it that you speak to folks, you keep yourself alive, and I count on you. I have to try some of your trainings. There you go. Well, you're welcome to them. I'm glad I can help. Exchanging your precious time for money is the worst way to earn money. Entrepreneurship is the way. In a way, yes, in a way, no. I used to think that when I was younger. I'm a lifetime entrepreneur, but I've also seen the point of view of other people. When you are an entrepreneur, the upsides, you can make a lot of money. You choose when you work, how you work, with whom you work. You're pretty much unlimited what you do, but there's a downside to being an entrepreneur. There's a startup time. It may take you 6 months, a year before you just get things off the ground, depending. Freelance is the easiest way to get into business for yourself, of course. You could fail. A lot of businesses fail. You'd have a lot more responsibility on your hands. You have a lot more to consider, a lot more to take care of. So let's just take a look at it in the context of software development. When you are a freelance developer or you own a SaaS company, like StudioWeb, I'm responsible as the founder for everything. The marketing, getting the clients, designing the app, architecture, design, making sure clients pay, making sure people get paid, setting up the business strategy, setting up the technology strategy, if you will, and the processes. And it can go on and on and on and on and on and on. You never have a break. You're basically responsible for the business 24/7. Whereas when you are an employee, like good friends of mine who retired multimillionaires, they just have to worry about the job that they did in the projects that they did. And on the weekends, unless they're on call or something, but on the weekends, that's it. They didn't have to worry about it, right? A much less responsibility. They always got paid. They didn't have to worry about getting paid. There's just a lot less stress working for somebody rather than be an entrepreneur. So there's a lot of upsides to having your own business, no question. but it's not all peaches and cream. You have to kind of weigh the pros and the cons. Now, it depends on your personality largely, whether you want to be an entrepreneur, whether you want to work for somebody, because it's personality driven. If you're like me and you like your freedom and you like to design things and you don't mind having responsibility in many areas, then and total control, then entrepreneurship is for you. If on the other hand, if you're somebody who doesn't want to be wedded to your work, married to your work, and you want some flexibility, you want to in terms of, when you're off on the weekend, you're off on the weekend. You don't want the stress of wondering if you're going to get the next client or your clients are going to pay you, especially in your early years. Then you might want to go work for somebody. So it depends on what you want to do. If you are a highly experienced software developer making 3-4 times the average salary, or 2-3 times depending where you are, that's a pretty good position to be in, because you think about it, you can get to retirement much more quickly than somebody else, right? But I hope that makes sense. Let's see what Anand has to say. Ageism is sometimes an issue in this industry. How have you had prospective employers react to a portfolio of work in open source projects in GitHub? I have never worked for somebody as an employee in software. I've only done freelance and contract work. That's the closest being to an employee I've been. Other than that, I've run my own businesses. What's the difference between freelance and contract work? Freelance typically means you're going to have more than one client you're going to be working, especially once you establish yourself, you're going to have more than one client, hopefully, 5 to 10 or maybe 20. That you're working on concurrently, or you have in like your stable of clients, if you will. And as a freelancer, you are totally independent. You work when you want to work. You work at home. You don't have to show up at at a particular time, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas a contractor, they're kind of like a temporary employee, where they get paid typically more than a full-time employee. But as a contractor, you typically work for a time, but you kind of have the limitations of an employee and some of the advantages. The limitations being you have to show up places. They may expect you to be there from 9 to 5 every day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You may be basically given a task to do. So when I did, as opposed to designing a system. So when I was a contractor last time for a big telco, but back in the 90s, for about 2-3 weeks, that was my longest stint as a contractor. Most of my work working for other people as a freelancer. But as a contractor, my job was just to do the help system. I just had to do the help system. But I had no say in how the help system was implemented beyond superficial stuff. They said, this is our system, here's our architecture. We want you to implement the help system. And that's what I did. So that's the situation with that. How we doing here? All right. Let's scroll up, see if we can get more questions. Alex says, do you think Node.js will be more used than PHP for backend dev in the coming couple of decades? Oh, your guess is as good as mine. I think they're both going to be important. I think they're going to both be important. So you can't go wrong with any of them. That's for sure. Is it too late to start learning at 35? I think I answered that question. The answer is a big no. 35 is still really, really young. What else we got here? What about data science? Getting into the field at 25, 35, 45, is it too old? I don't know. I think to be a data scientist, I think you have to become a data scientist, right? And that's what, 3 to 4 years in university. You make that decision. I don't know if it's too old. I would always weigh it against salaries and so forth. But data scientists can make good money. I've looked at this in the past. Coming out of the gate, they make maybe a little bit, 5% more than a developer. But a developer doesn't need to take 3 to 4 years at university to get into that game. Yeah. People seem to like my shirt. Yeah, it's a colorful shirt. All right, what else do we got here? We'll see what Charlie has to say. Hi, Stef. I'm 23, self-taught, struggling to learn algorithms and stuff like that. So I'll maybe have a chance at a job in a big company. Can I get there on my own, or should I go to college for that? Bigger companies require usually higher education, depending. depending. That being said, algorithms are not necessarily key. I think it's rarity that you need algorithms. It depends on the type of work that you're doing. Maybe if you get an AI and ML, you're going to need to be algorithmically capable. But I did a video a couple of streams ago where I went through, somebody did a bunch of Python code, software developer job questions, where he was interviewing to become a Python developer, and there was no algorithm questions in there whatsoever. It's mostly fundamentals. So stick to your fundamentals. All right, Mohammed says, I am a developer without a degree. Can I immigrate to Canada easily? You would have to ask the Canadian government about that. Typically, one of the things they look at is your level of education. But if you also have a good background, you can show, look, I'm a professional developer, I've done all this kind of work, that might make it easier as well. But they have basically a ranking system. And one of the things they look at is level of education, but they also look at work experience and so on. If you can speak French, I don't know if you can speak French, depending on where you're from, you'd be easier to get into Quebec, as an example. Let's see. Why not Rust instead of C++? I just find like Rust and other languages like that, I find they're niche languages. And I'm looking at it purely from a use case point of view or a marketing point of view. They may have some advantages technically over C++, etc. But I'm just looking at the broader issue. I always kind of balance technical aspects of a technology, and I also look at the market aspects of a technology. Why does gap years after college? I don't know what that means. I shouldn't have clicked that one. Raccoon, tell me what you mean by that. What would be a good tip to get that first developer job, as I am a junior developer just finishing with a code boot camp at SMU? I've covered that many times. Put out a portfolio site. Do a couple of freelance gigs. Step and repeat. People pay much more attention to your practical experience than anything else. All right, here we go. If you know C++, can you work as a freelancer? If yes, how and what would the resources to look for? That's interesting. I think you might get jobs as a contractor, not so much as a freelancer. Most freelancing work is for small businesses who need to get a website up or maintain an old a web app they have, or they want to build a small web app to help with their operations. This is all stuff that you're going to do with the web, not C++, It's not a knock on C++. It's just the nature of the game out there, How about robotics? Would you recommend it for somebody who likes C++? I think so. It's not my forte. I don't do robotics, but just look around. Just research the industry, man. Use Google and check it out. Boom, boom, boom. Robotics, what do they use? And they probably use a lot of C++. I'm pretty sure about that. But yeah, why not? You say after finishing your StudioWeb courses to watch one or two tutorials. What kind of tutorials do you mean? Thank you, sir. Well, you do the StudioWeb foundations, which are HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript, PHP, SQL, databases, and it covers a whole bunch of subjects around the languages. You have to understand when you're learning software development, coding, it's not just the language itself you have to learn. You have to understand the environment around the languages. That's huge. Like, for example, with just simple HTML5 and CSS3, you have to understand the whole web space. You have to understand web servers, client server, request response model, HTTP, how servers work, yada, 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 yada. And it goes on and on from there. So we do have a couple of tutorial. We have a few tutorial projects, but they're kind of training wheel projects. I suggest, in the course, you do one or two of those, maybe three, and then you just jump into the game for real. One of my main philosophies is that you learn on a need-to-nerd basis. That's how you really develop your skills as a professional developer. What does that mean? That means you go out there, you do a job, and the job requires you have to implement something in Node. Well, then you learn Node then. Do another job, and you learn that you may have to do some React. You learn React then, etc., etc. It's the preparation to get into the game is just get your foundations down. Just like how fighters learn to fight. They learn the basics. They learn how to throw punches and how to kick if you're doing that. They learn balance and timing and tactics, and they condition mentally and physically. And then they get into the ring and they really start learning the craft. All right. Do you have any thoughts on web VR, virtual reality? I think it's going to be highly niche. Looks like a lot of fun. Anything visual and so forth. If I know what that is, I think web VR, virtual reality, is very, very niche. Thoughts on Thoughts on Dreamweaver for building a site quickly. Good platform or bad platform? I haven't looked at Dreamweaver in years. Adobe product. It's their visual point-and-click web builder. It's lost a lot of its mojo. It used to be like the dominant player in the game. I would imagine it's keeping up with standards. I haven't looked at it in years. I used to use the old Dreamweaver back in the day. We're talking a long time ago. I used to use this to quickly put up mock-ups, if you will, of pages to show clients before I actually went crazy with my own code. Yes, you could try that out, but I would be leaning towards more Visual Studio Code or something. All right, let's see. I have a PhD in chemistry and have spent about 10 years away from science and technology. Do you think building a portfolio of web projects about chemistry would be better than random topics? If you want to get into a company, would be interested in that for sure. You got to kind of target the company that you want to go work for, if you want to get a job, much in a way you would target a client if you wanted to start a business. So, if you wanted to sell, if you wanted to sell product to teenagers, you would have to design your product that would appeal to teenagers, right? So I don't think, canes and wheelchairs would be a good product if you want to sell to teenagers. You get the idea. So if you want to target that type of company, chemistry, and who would be interested in somebody with that skill set, then definitely put that up. But if that's not your intention, then you may want to go somewhere else. One of my mentors told me a simple rule about business, and it applies to getting jobs, applies to everything in life, says that the key to success in business is to figure out what people want and to give it to them. It's that simple. It's that simply stated. It's a lot harder to execute, but that's basically what you want to do. Hey, Stef, I feel like the amount of aspects of web development, I'm trying to read this here. I feel like the amount of aspects of web development and how to connect it all together is the hardest thing for a beginner. Web development map, Google Images, any tips on that? Yeah, 100%. That's that context I talk about. That's that environment around the languages. The biggest weakness with so many courses that they don't teach all that. That's what I teach. Be shameless self-promotion. I'm having trouble speaking today. My apologies. Shameless self-promotion, but that's basically it. You just got to jump into it. When you start actually building real projects, then it starts to make sense and come together. Okay, let me skip that. Actually, as a kid, I wanted to learn that. Now I have kids, and I want them to have a superpower. Yeah, learning to code young is a superpower. There's no question about that. What's your thoughts about C++ on backend? What do you mean, backend dev? Web dev? I don't know. You let me know what you mean by that. What's your opinion about using Python for parametric design, architectural projects, or generative design made by JS libraries? I wouldn't know. What I would suggest as a general rule, this is a specialization I'm not familiar with. I would look at the maturity of each of the languages' implementation within the architectural projects. Look at the maturity of the modules and the libraries that they provide and see where there's a much greater interest. I think I'm under the impression that Java would run quicker than Python, but you may find there's a much richer ecosystem in that case. So then I would go with Python. Stef, can you show some stick solo on drums? I have in the past. What I plan to do, because I'm moving fairly soon, within a few weeks, I'm not taking my drum set to the new place, I don't think. So I'm going to be recording a bunch of beats, which I'm going to use and incorporate to create some new tunes later on. So I might videotape those. I think I should. I am not about to deliver things properly on time. I got stuck at many places and not able to find root cause, such deadlines over, and I feel lost. Yeah, that's not uncommon. So what you got to do is you got to break up your project into smaller chunks, smaller components. So you may have 50 things or 20 things or 10 things to deal with, and it's pretty overwhelming. What you got to do is you got to break them up into little discrete, like maybe it's the authentication, or maybe it's the data access, and maybe it's some of the views. And then you set priorities. What things that have to be done to get this thing up and running, at least from the point of view of your client, your end user, as quickly as possible. And that you might want to do it that way. That's why when I teach that software development is an iterative process. You get it from A to Z, meaning from start to working, with quickly as possible. And it could be super dirty code, because you want to get something in front of your client's eyes as quickly as possible so that they can start giving you feedback. And you don't try to perfect the code as you go in the first round. The first round is just to get it done. The second round, the second iteration, is the cleanup, where you start refining and refactoring everything. If you don't know what refactoring is, refactoring is the process of cleaning your code. This is the book I recommend for refactoring. If you don't know refactoring, I don't know if this is going to focus or not. Here you go. There'll be a link below after this video is done. So this is the book I recommend. This is for Java, but the lessons applied here work on all languages. This will take you from advanced intermediate coder, which StudioWeb will do for you, my courses will do for you, and this will take you to advanced developer. And actually, if you follow along in this book, even 30% of what's in this book, you'll be better than most developers in the world. Let's see. Do you really need a CS degree to get a job, or being a self-taught programmer is good enough? You do not need a CS degree. I've talked about this. I got to put that in my my list of video FAQs. That's a question I get. It's a good question, but I get it all the time. So I got to set up video FAQs and refer to people to that. So conversation here. See, I like it when there's conversations amongst viewers here. So we got one here. The industry I work now is not reliable anymore. 1 year up, 3 years down. Hopes SW Dev is the path. Maybe Ruby. Exactly. What would your advice freelancers to be successful in the long run? Well, you do my freelance course, you learn about that. But in a nutshell, you want to have a diversity of clients. You want to have many. It's always better to have many small clients than to have a few big clients. Why? Because let's say you have 20 small clients, or let's say 10. You have 10 small clients. You lose one because they're jerks, or they go out of business, or you don't like them, you fire them. So you lose one. In theory, you lose just 10% of your business. Not a big hit. But if you only have 3 big clients and one of them starts giving you trouble, and you lose that client, it's going to be a huge hit on your bottom line. It will make you insecure. So that's number one. Many small clients. You want that. You don't want a few big clients. Number two, you want FU money. You got to have a lot of FU money. When you're self-employed, whether it be freelance, a SaaS owner, you have to have FU money. FU money is freedom. It's money to cover all your expenses for at least 6 months. I advise a year to 2 years. Why? Because then you'll be able to negotiate very well. You'll be able to, with prospective clients. You won't be desperate to get the contract. So that's why you won't be, you'll be a better negotiator because you're not desperate. And you'll be able to pick and choose the contracts that's much more carefully, that are much more profitable. If you don't have FU money, you always have your back to the wall. And here's the added huge benefit of having FU money. You can watch my video on it. It's on the YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel. It gives you peace of mind. When you have a good year, imagine you have a year of cash, cover all your expenses, you sleep well at night, right? If you have 2 years, you sleep even better at night. So that's my, and this is apart from life retirement savings. This is just emergency money. So keep that in mind. Mr. Stef, Golang and Russ are for real. They will dominate the web space soon. Well, maybe they will. I don't know. I don't think so, but they could. They could. I know people who like Golang and Russ really like it. But as far as I know, for every Golang and Rush job, there's probably 1,000 PHP jobs and JavaScript jobs. Last time I checked. Small clients are the best, exactly. They don't control you either. They don't control you either. They know, like they're smart enough to know, if you have 10 small clients and they get a sense of that, they're not going to mess around with you as much as their big client who knows they're a big client who's going to start pushing their weight around. The development tool which you kept close to your heart but quickly died. I would say Java. Not that Java died, but it died for me. And it died for me because when I started discovering that nimble scripting languages like Python or PHP or JavaScript could do just about all I wanted to do, but did do with much less code, a lot less complexity. Even though I love Java and still I have Java books that are 25 years old. I still have. I got to throw them out now. But you could say that. And there were Java frameworks that I really liked and invested in that just died. Like Apple had something called Web Objects, which was JavaScript, a Java-based MVC framework, was quite powerful for its day. They originally I think it was Smalltalk. I got into when it was converted to Java, but yeah, it's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. My company, a global bank, told us at COVID-19 update yesterday that they are considering reducing the number of buildings, allowing some IT people to work remotely permanently. Yeah, that's going to be a big trend. I was thinking of doing a live stream about that. It's going to be a huge trend. I think if you're invested in any REITs, real estate investment trusts that are invested in commercial property, get out. That would be my advice, because I think people are going to realize, they're starting to realize big time now, what I realized 20 years ago, that having an office space for a lot of people is just a waste of time and money. A waste of time and money. Huge expense for nothing. So big companies, more and more big companies are starting to realize that they can operate really, really well with a remote work staff and have a small footprint. So one company, another one that announced, I forget, they have 15,000 employees, some technology company, I forget which one it is. They just announced last week, privately held, if I recall. And they said that they realized that they don't need the office space. They're going to shut down, like, I think he said, don't quote me on it, I think they said 90% of the office space is going to be shut down because they can remotely work, and very effectively. So they were saying they were spending huge amounts of money on office space, but they don't need. Think about all the time people waste driving to and from work. And I know some people spend an hour and a half each way to go to work and back again. What a waste of time. So that's like 3 hours of your day, every day, 15 hours a week, every week, wasted sitting in a car to go to a job that you can, in their coders, you could do at home in front of a computer. So that's going to change. That's one of the positive things I think that this pandemic is going to bring about, is that people are realizing that there's different ways and more effective ways to work where everybody saves money, quality of life increases, and the carbon footprint diminishes tremendously if you care about that. I Stef, 2 years working with Salesforce, Commerce Cloud, good money. Is it a good idea to change to a lower paying job for a while, but to develop from zero, not using platform? I start to hate that. So you're starting to hate the platform. Again, I would always transition. Never go cold turkey on a moneymaker, right? And maybe you could, Salesforce, are you a developer in Salesforce? I guess you are a developer. Maybe you can transition into more sales or architecture. Maybe you're going to prevent, maybe you can, how am I going to get rid of this guy here? Anyway, I have to deal with these spammers here. Anyway, that's it. Yeah. So maybe you can transition there. All right. I'm going to have to worry. I'm going to have to see how I can block people. I'm going to have to look at that. Right. what we do here. Is it better to have more components with the same design, or have one component that with that same design but with more code to deal with different inputs? That's interesting. I'm trying to wrap my head around that. You want to have components that are okay, I got to stop this guy. I don't know. Have to get a moderator. All right, guys. Anyways, 35 minutes. This guy is spamming. I'm going to have to work out how we're going to nail people like this jerk here. And we'll take it from there. Ciao.